Today in News Tech, how to make data-focused decisions. All right. So let's wrap things up here with our last story. This is from Tyler on making data-focused decisions. Do you want to walk us through this one, or should we just give it a quick listen and then take it from there? What do you think?
It's pretty straightforward, but I do think that it is very relevant to especially what we were discussing in how to approach today in news tech, actually.
This is part of the reason we're doing this is we need to be publishers ourselves to really understand our customers and their needs. We're using all our own tools. Today in News Tech is a WordPress site that's exactly like all of our customers, using all the same plugins. So let's just go through the big takeaways here. Insight based on data rather than raw numbers and statistics. So what's an example of that? Most popular category, just boiling down your top categories rather than giving just a list of page views by category or something like that?
Right. Like you need someone on your team to interpret the data is basically the larger gist of this article. Okay. But what this is saying is like, don't come to your team and say, hey, we're getting a lot of readers here. Say, these are what our readers are engaging with. And here's what we can infer from that is actionable.
Actionable. When you say that, I mean, what I think of immediately, it's probably the most simple action you could take. But if you identify your top 3 most popular categories, then you just expand on those categories. So give them more room in print, and then also at the same time, more room online, right? What else could we do? I mean, is there something related to advertising, some type of action we could take from these insights for advertisers just by looking at the most successful articles possibly? Could you then say, this article was the most popular in the month of February. We're going to do a follow-up on it and ad sales staff.
I think on top of that, I would look at like maybe trying to figure out why the article was popular. Mm-hmm. It could be that it was just popular because it was something related to something happening in February. Right. Or it could be an evolving story. Right. It could just have been a fluke. But I think that level of analysis is really what this is getting at. It's saying like, don't just look at the pure stats of this is a thing people are reading, but maybe it's not worth following up. Maybe it was just going to hit high that one time.
For a lot of these things, I find it hard to talk about in such abstract terms. So like you said, let's try to apply this to today in news tech, just because that's what we're most familiar with. The first thing I was just thinking about that is if we're looking for the next topic to cover, we could go back and look at the stats on the website, but you've really got to gather it from all the social platforms because we're getting more engagement on social media than we are on the website at this point. So it's got to be comprehensive. You've got to just sum up all your engagements across all platforms. And that's another factor in what kind of action you're going to take as a follow-up, because maybe you focus on just promoting the article on the platform that it was originally most successful on, or you go back and do a little bit of a reverse engineering and say, why did this article take off on Twitter? In our case, we had a couple stories this week that got more likes and reshares than usual. So who did we mention in that article? Who was
exactly?
What was the hashtag in that one? Maybe that hashtag should be prioritized in future posts, just in general, or for posts in this category. If you are really hands-on with your social media and you're putting on custom hashtags and you're mentioning handles for organizations or people in the community, that alone is just like a takeaway that I've really learned from this whole project. Mentioning organizations, then they will almost always retweet or like your post, and then that feeds into the Twitter algorithm and gets you in front of their audience. Can't say exactly how much of their audience are going to see your post then, but that's something that we should definitely think about for the social auto post feature. That would be a huge enhancement if we could identify good hashtags for an article.
That almost feels like it could be associated with the SEO plugin.
The SEO plugin, definitely. I think the related stories feature would help us identify the terms that are the most central to the article and bring those out, include them as a hashtag, or suggest them as a hashtag, maybe initially having a suggestion, or they could just quickly choose the hashtags to include. Could we even somehow identify if there's an organization mentioned in the article? Could we identify the Twitter handle or the Facebook?
I've been doing some research on how our social media plugin works. And one of the interesting things I found was Blog to Social actually has a feature that will read the tags off of a WordPress article and post those as hashtags in the social media post.
There you go. Okay.
And I think I think there's places in the article set up where you can have like a pool of tags that will autocomplete for authors and things like that. And then if you're not necessarily automating it, because it'd have to be some kind of scripting thing to parse out if there's a company name or something.
Right.
But it's really easy to write an article, go into the auto post, basically switch out any names you want for mentions. The hashtags will be in there if you put tags on that, or you can put those in manually.
Right.
Then you can flip images, all kinds of different stuff, and then just schedule it to go out whenever you want. So it can be more hands-on, but it can be very automated too with the post templates that they have.
I think you just kind of gave us a roadmap to it. So the tags feature, it's not something that we necessarily use much.
Normally it's just for searching the site itself, but if Blog to Social can transfer those into hashtags, it just simplifies that and kind of gives you the consistency you want for your content.
That's a way to get it into Blog to Social. What we would need to come up with is a way to get it into the tags area of the article. And that could be done maybe with the SEO plugin or with related stories. So that would be where the development would have to be. But then we could just turn on that feature.
Just a brainstorm. But if you substituted the person's name and you actually just added a hyperlink to their Twitter page, then it would be able to parse it and know what their handle is and all that. And so that might be a way to tackle that. It's a little outside of the discussion, but that might be a way of kind of making it easier on the publisher to make sure that info's in there so that the plugin can then deal with it without them worrying about it.
Yeah, I think just in general, making it easier for publishers to use hashtags, no problem, and mentions on social media, even if initially it's just suggesting them and they have to copy and paste into the posts or into the Blog to Social scheduler. That would be the first step, and then automating it would be next. Anything else that we wanted to highlight here?
We basically already covered that second
I think
point.
we've covered this in one form or another, actually in a weird way in that first story. So kind of neat how these things come together. A lot of recurring themes through this stuff. So, all right, great, guys. Thanks so much. That was a fun one. I'm not sure, Carolyn, if you're still on with us, but thank you for joining, and hopefully we'll have you back. Well, thank you all again, and we'll talk to you all next week. Today in News Tech, the podcast covering innovation in digital journalism. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe on YouTube or any of your favorite podcast apps. We'll see you tomorrow.
At our hometown, we help newspapers build WordPress websites, design native apps, and develop digital subscription models. If you are interested in a free prototype of your publication on WordPress, go to ourhometown.com and click the Contact Us button.